Hello, and welcome to the Self-Care with Herbs segment of the Elder Tree podcast. I'm your host, Jess Bosker, naturopath, herbalist, and medicine maker. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Banjalang people, the traditional custodians of the land on which I live, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, come along and join me each month for beautiful conversations with guests from across the country, exploring ways we can weave plant medicine into our days to enrich our experience of self-care, sharing routines, rituals, and recipes for elevating mind, body, and spirit. Beth Attard is a degree-qualified naturopathic herbalist with a core passion for supporting women with ADHD, gut issues, and hormone imbalances. She helps ADHDers to develop better executive function, reduce brain fog, banish burnout, and find equilibrium with their focus. She really gets their journey after experiencing cyclical burnout, gut issues, and the whole kitchen sink of challenges that ADHD can present with. She ended up taking matters into her own hands and utilised her skills of being naturopathic herbalist and her ADHD superpower of laser focus for topics that she's interested in, and began collating and analysing current research and trying out what works. Over the following 6 months, she experienced huge leaps in her ability to retain focus on things she found challenging. Her burnout symptoms became virtually non-existent, and she stopped forgetting where she put her keys. Well, that might still happen occasionally. She was able to enjoy her life. Today, my chat with Beth follows her interesting and meandering journey to becoming a qualified naturopathic herbalist. Beth experienced some really significant nudges throughout her travels through Canada, Thailand, and South America, crossing paths with lots of different plant people, soaking up their wisdom, spending time immersed in a permaculture farm, learning how to grow and make medicines. This really culminated, and she became so interested in herbal medicine and naturopathic skills that she decided to study a bachelor and now practices supporting people with neurodivergency. I really enjoyed chatting with Beth and hearing her practical, easy tools that she uses herself and shares with others for helping to maintain consistency with self-care. We talk about the pillars, including things like food and nutrition and movement. Beth provides some really helpful ideas around inclusions into diet when there's sensory issues or confusion about variety. We talk about how important movement is for becoming body aware and listening in to the messages from the body and being able to respond to those. And we also talk about some of the herbs that Beth has found have been really helpful for her in terms of focus, nervous system support, gut support. She talks about herbs that she uses consistently in clinic supporting people with neurodivergency, and she has a really lot of practical wisdom to share. I got so much out of this chat with Beth, and I know you're going to as well. Hi Beth, and welcome to the Self-Care with Herbs segment of the Elder Tree podcast. I'm so happy to have you here with me today.
Hi Jess, I'm so happy to be here with you.
I wish the listeners could see us because we were just laughing about how we've both got our Nana outfits on today with our beautiful warm scarves. I've got my beautiful Daily Ella bandana on, and you're looking gorgeous in your beautiful earthy tones, snuggled up warm on this cold, wet day.
Totally right.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to exploring the themes of self-care and how they come into your life. But what I really like to start with is just getting to know you a little bit better and getting listeners to hear your story. And I'd really love to hear from you how your relationship with plant medicine and herbs began. Let's go right back to that first little spark.
So interesting. I feel like I was a bit of a late bloomer. I think the spark started when I moved to Canada and I was living in Whistler, and it was just coming to the end of spring, and I had, even in wintertime, I just felt like I was in this other worlds being in the mountains and these like evergreen trees, because it was so different to being in Australia.
Yeah.
And I had actually got an injury. Anyway, I had an injury. I couldn't snowboard for the rest of the season. So I think I went to the bookshop and bought some like foraging books. And so I would go out and just walk around the forest or hobble along through the forest, just finding plants and recognizing them. Essentially, it was just a big excuse just to be outside and just be in awe of this new place that I'd never been. And it felt so magical, and it has this like whimsical aspect, and I just loved being in these huge trees. And I would find that I could go out for a very quick hour walk, and then the next thing I knew, it was like half my day gone.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah, so I guess that was the starting of it. And then over time and my time there, it just eventually blossomed into a lot of informal teachers and learning about plants, both in a food aspect and medicinal aspect. And then it's just kind of snowballed. That was maybe about 12 years ago now. So yeah, here we
Take
are.
us back to those little wanders in the forest in Canada. Can you remember some of the plants that you took joy in discovering?
Oh gosh, I think the big one for me was this plant called Labrador tea. And I just remember seeing it in this like little boggy area around a lake, and I loved it because it had this like just really beautiful olive green on top and quite easy to pass by. But then you turn over the leaf and it had this like brown furry, like rust furry underside.
Wow.
And the smell was amazing. It's almost like a rosemary smell doesn't really do it justice, but I think that's probably the closest, maybe like that warm, earthy, spicy. Anyway, it was gorgeous and it made a beautiful tea. That was probably the thing where I was like, oh, wow, hi, friends.
Yeah, how beautiful.
Yeah.
And
then obviously lots of...
Can you remember what that plant was used for? I'm not familiar with that at all.
Yeah, it's not really used much in in Australian herbal culture, because I think it might be quite specific to that bioregion over there where I was. Labrador is actually a state towards the east coast, on the east coast of Canada. But it's used a lot for respiratory, antimicrobial, bronchial kind of pictures. Yeah. And then, lots of tea, but then again, like I'd use it as spices I believe I was vegetarian at the time, so on veggies, and finding a lot of creative ways to work with it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Which was fun.
And prior to being in Canada, had you had that kind of longing and interest in plants and the environment around you and getting to know places through that in that way?
No, not at all. I was kind of so detached. Like I didn't necessarily have that relationship when I was growing up. It was never... we didn't spend a lot of time outdoors. I mean, we, had a few picnics here and there. I think we only went camping for my first time when I was like 11 or 12, because I was on a nippers camp.
Yeah.
And then, after I finished school, I just loved the city and was enamored with that lifestyle for such a long time. And nature never really spoke to me. Or maybe it was, but I was just so tone deaf and just happy in the world that I was living.
Yes.
Yeah, which I've always found really interesting. Yeah,
So
and up
spending
here.
some time in that beautiful place in Canada, kind of exploring. After that, did you then come back to Australia and do some study there, or did you spend some more time over there?
Kind of. I was in Canada for a few years, and like I said, lots of informal teachers. And then I actually had a van. Actually, oh yeah, there's a little side quest where I ended up in Thailand, and I met a herbalist there
Oh, tell us
who
about
gave me
that.
like all these herbs.
Yeah.
It was like this like old man. I don't even know how we started talking. And then we ended up at his place, and he's getting me to taste like echinacea and elecampane, and like taking me on this wild journey of like plants. And this is again, like, this is even before I had any idea I had that calling to work with plants. And it's just so interesting throughout my time getting all these like little nudges.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and so that was just like, I think we just spent like a few days together just hanging out, and he'd tell me about plants. I was like, cool, this is amazing. And then when I was in Canada, when I went back to Canada, I had a van and I had visa issues. So I was like, all right, I'm going to drive my van south. And as I drove south, I ended up being in the States, in Mexico, Central America for quite a few years. And again, it was similar. Like, I just kept meeting people on this herbal path so sporadically, like, or so synchronistically. Um, and each of them would just like share their stories, or I'd go out with them for their work for a few days. Uh, Yeah, and so along the way, like, I started getting this like little herbal apothecary in my van, which was always fun to carry around. And then started making like my own little folk method tinctures on the road. And I think I made a few salves when I had the facilities to make it. A van's not always the most ideal spot for making salves. Um, yeah, and then I think the culmination kind of happened. I was in Guatemala and I met a two women, uh, Sarah Wu and Lala, and they introduced me to this whole other world of herbal medicine through the lens of permaculture, and that was really special. And I ended up studying with them in Costa Rica for a while. So
And what did that
yeah,
study entail, Beth?
it was called Permaculture of the Herbalist Path, and it was doing your permaculture design certificate, but it had this interlay of the human body, so recognizing the mirror of the earth and the human body together, and how they mirror each other, and looking at herbs and where these plants grow in different bioregions or in different ecosystems, and how that mirrors back how they will respond in our bodies. Yeah. And then that was such a big catalyst, and that was getting towards the end of my travels. That was like, all right, this is really lighting me up. This is something special. And I think I lived on one more farm after that. Um, and then, yeah, came back to Australia and decided to, yeah, enroll in a full on bachelor degree. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, that was a fun journey.
I love hearing about all those little nudges without you even really seeking it out. Just all of these little paths crossing and little, nudges from the universe culminating in that
Oh,
amazing course. Gosh, that sounds like such an amazing
mm,
immersion.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
those,
I find it interesting, like now when I'm like talk about that journey, I'm like, wow, that's so, I think I knew at the time, like when I was going along and getting these nudges, I was like, but what is this? And I was always so ended up drawn to these people without ever really trying to find them.
mm,
Yeah.
do you think that travel was a really big catalyst for that? Do you think that those nudges would have occurred if you'd remained in the environment that you were in?
I think they could have come out if I was in Canada, definitely. And it's like anything. I'm sure they would have come out here if I was in Australia. I think I needed to go traveling and open up to new worlds and yeah, recognize there's other ways of living and being outside of what I'd been exposed to previously.
And those herbs that you were exposed to during the permaculture course, were those ones that you work with now, or were they quite different?
There was a lot of similarities. I remember getting so excited to work with gotu kola, and obviously it's still one of my favorite plants today.
Yes.
There's a lot of, because I was in Costa Rica doing that, it was, a tropical rainforest. And so there's a lot of analogues to what we have. Yeah. There's definitely some overlaps, but differences. I feel like there's more relationship to the plants that I was learning about in Canada because they were like quite Eurocentric.
Yes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
did that permaculture course inspire you to want to grow herbs? Did that light a fire in you in that way, or was it more about working with them in different ways?
Yeah, permaculture course definitely ignited that fire, and I think that's maybe reason why I was so excited to get home so I could tend a garden. And yeah, I really, really have enjoyed that journey. It's been like a in and out of a weaving, as you rent and have to move homes more often than I would have liked over the last 5, 6 years.
Tell us a little bit
And then
about
on
how
top
you've
of
been
that,
able.
study.
Yeah, tell us about how you've been able to weave some of those learnings into your different places of abode during that time, and how you were able to kind of pull the permaculture principles in and bring in those plant allies.
Oh, I feel like, gosh, I'm a little bit all or nothing. And I think when I first arrived back in Australia, we have a beautiful nursery up near where my mum and dad live. And so I went to Green Patch and bought like hundreds of seeds and little seedlings and planted them all in like my mum and dad's garden, much to my dad's dismay because he's had a thriving garden, like thriving veggie garden. And I'm like, I'm taking this pot and this pot. And then, and then before we knew it, we had like overabundance of nettle and lemon balm and borage and
all those ones that some gardeners think of as weeds.
yeah, totally. So I was like, here you go. And then like planting comfrey and nettle, and my dad's like, this one stings. And I'm like, yep.
Thanks, Beth.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. So that was a bit funny. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I just wanted everything in the ground. And so much of my relationship and learning about them was just sitting out and watching them each day, watching them grow, watching bees interact with them. Um, and then again, like every now and then I'll, make some medicine with them. I used to make some like borage flower essence and sometimes some fire cider with the nasturtiums and cups of tea, tinctures, all of the goodness, right? And then and then since I've moved, I've learned to put things in pots or movable planting apparatus. Yeah.
What are some of your favourites that have kind of travelled around with you from the outset?
Oh gosh. Do you know the one that I've still got going at the moment is Tulsi, which is actually from Sally Kingsford Smith.
I have a baby of hers also. She's got little
like
grandbaby Tulsies everywhere.
So much grandbaby Tulsies. Yeah, so that's alive and thriving. I have some mugwort that's alive and thriving. And I feel like they're the only ones that I've really had consistently growing. All the others seem to be a little bit more transient, partly due to neglect or, it can be tricky when you live in a rental and trying to find like the ideal sunspot, not too hot, not too cold. So that's always been a little bit of a challenge for me.
And so those ones that have come with you and survived the moves and found their place in other areas are, true, warriors that are really supporting you along the way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yes.
They definitely are. Yeah.
Take us back to the borage flower essence. What do you like to use that for?
Oh, I was using it a little bit for grief and around grief.
Beautiful.
Holding and releasing grief.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yes. Yes. That was a special one. And it's always interesting because I played with it a little bit and it's not something that I've used a lot internally or felt called to use a lot internally at the moment. So,
So you've had this beautiful winding journey with nudges culminating in that immersion and then, feeling called to do some more study. Coming into a bachelor degree with all of that kind of grounded experience with the plants and getting to know herbs in a really practical way, do you find that was really helpful when it came to studying your bachelor?
To be honest, no, I found it quite frictionous.
Tell us about that.
Yes and no. Like yes, because I had an understanding of plants and how to look at them and how to categorize them per se in terms of like families and just understanding different components of plants. So that was helpful, but more frictionless because how I'd learned herbs and how to work with plants in the first place was so opposing to how we were taught at uni, as I'm sure you're aware, and it like this very use this for this and take it at this dose. This is the therapeutic dose. This is where the research lies. And so I found that quite challenging. And one of the things that I one of my big lessons at uni was just to keep having that beginner's mindset. So even though I'd already learned a lot of the herbs, I still had to keep open, even though there was this friction going on where I was like, oh, this feels really hard to grasp, but it's just another lens. And so that was the big part of it, to stay open to receiving that information and recognizing it was just another lens to see herbs through.
That's a really nice way of looking at it, Beth, despite having felt that friction. Like, I imagine a lot of people would feel a little bit like their wings had been clipped in that situation, and to kind of really be banging their heads, but to just, frame it that way, and I'm still getting something from this, even if it's presented to me in a different way, and I can take from it what I will.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That was a big lesson.
And I know now you're in practice and you love supporting people with neurospicy brains, and I'd love to look at self-care for you, what that looks like and what it means in general, just that general kind of overarching theme for you, and maybe even for people that you work with.
Yeah. So self-care, I feel, is these foundational health aspects, right? And for me, one of those core principles is movement, sleep, nutrition, hydration, sunlight. Yes. And so it's weaving these in, and it's an interesting relationship because my brain seeks novelty, but it also thrives off routine. And so, what works for me for 3 months or 6 months, sometimes 2 weeks, who knows, around keeping these principles. And trying to find that balance between those aspects. And so it's having different tools for each of them. Like at the moment for me, movement is very much just walking. Walking eliminates a lot of decision fatigue. Even just some of those working memory challenges that come up for people with ADHD or who are autistic, that can be really helpful. And then, that's probably the biggest one, where it's like that push and pull between routine, but also needing that novelty thrown in.
So you're talking about having kind of a variety of tools within each of those pillars that can help you maintain consistency without getting bored.
Exactly. Because sometimes it can be hard. And same with, I think food is another big thing. It's like trying to minimize as much of the friction that occurs from having to make choices each day or having to think about certain steps. And so, I might, at the moment, the other thing is like making my breakfasts the same for 1 week and then rotating through a few different options can be helpful. And then, maybe every now and then you can add a new breakfast in when you have the ability to try new things. But then if you are going through those cycles of burnout or just like exhaustion, can't focus, then you can go back to those tried and true ones that are easy to prepare. Really, really simple, but are hitting those nutritional marks as well as those, I think, some of those sensory experiences that can happen with food and making sure you aggravate any of those.
I love that, Beth. That's really practical, like having the kind of tried and true, comfortable, but also nutritionally repeat choices that you can fall back on, and then using the time when you do have the capacity to look at new options to kind of cement those when you feel able to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big thing because, obviously food can be, so healing, or it can be so triggering, and it's finding that balance when you go through this like ADHD burnout or autistic burnout, and it's like you want safe foods, but also how can they be nutritious if, for me, sometimes I just love a good packet of potato chips or potato anything, let's be honest. And so it's like finding ways that I can still have those, or, even for me, I still eat a lot of beige food, but how can I just make them a little bit more nutritious that isn't going to be triggering for me?
So what are some of the ways that you've managed to do that, Beth?
I think partly because working as a herbalist, you learn to accommodate big palettes. And, growing up, I had to eat everything off my plate as well, which was part of it. Just all of those. Yeah, and so it's a bit hard to actually speak about that specifically in a like grander context. But for me, recognizing the value of adding things in, and so having again removing some of those barriers or that friction. So it's like having some frozen peas or frozen veggies in the fridge or freezer that I can pull out and have a scoop of. And for me, sometimes it's having I have like frozen spinach, and then I make like a spinach gourmet inspired dish with tahini and soy sauce just on the side. So it's still like I'm still getting some nutrients coming in via all of those other ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other big thing is lots of spices and condiments. Like handmade condiments are probably the other big thing for me, is either having batches in the freezer. So if I'm making a pesto, I try and make one each week. Again, I cycle through making them regularly to not at all.
I love that, Beth. It's all about adding things in rather than, feeling like you need to remove those comfort foods.
Yes, definitely.
Increasing the nutrient density of them. And there's so much research around how much value there is in those things like condiments like pesto and spices, and how important they are for the microbiome, and how nutritious and nutrient dense they are, that, they pack a real punch, even if you're just adding them to something that isn't hugely full of nutrients.
Yep. And what I found is they're still really tasty, delicious as well. So they still are hitting, making it palatable, which I think is really important. Especially for that compliance factor.
Yes, absolutely. So when, I imagine there's times where you're not able, or you're too busy, or, life and the things that are your pillars you aren't invested in them as you can be. What are some of the things that happen for you in your body and your mind that go, hey, Beth, come on, you haven't moved your body enough recently, or you're not adding those condiments in, or, what are some of the things that go, come on, nudge, bang?
For me, I get a lot of fatigue is probably the biggest thing, where just to the point where I can't get out of bed. I can't speak to people.
Yes.
That's at the really bad stage. Yeah, and it can be really hard to regulate from that space. And I've definitely learned to manage not to get to that space. But it's also knowing, I guess it's like I always think about this valley going down. And so it's learning where you are requires different needs. But yeah, for me, that's the bottom. And then I guess for me at the start, it starts to be a little bit brain fog, hard to focus, maybe like a little bit of irregular bowel movements. And then I notice like, yeah, it's that concentration focus can't, a lot of executive function skills just go completely offline for me. They're the big ones that I'm like, okay, it's like, hello, look at me, come help me. So they're the early stages.
Yeah, talk us through how you've been able to recognize where you are at on that slope, and what are some of the tools that you've managed to put on your tool belt that kind of help you in the different points of that.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Gosh, I feel like I know those points because I've been through it so much. Both knowing what I do know now about living with neurodivergence, to also going through these cycles previously without knowing.
Yes.
And it's just having that body awareness and that, you know, having that conversation with yourself. And I think that's like another pillar. I actually have 9 or 10 pillars that I sometimes talk about. But one of them is like, you know, that connection to self and being able to check in with yourself so you can, you know, see them and feel them and listen for those body cues, which sometimes can be challenging for neurodivergent people as well. So it can be a bit of a whole nother world to go down of like teaching people certain body cues if they're not aware of them. Or just recognizing that certain symptoms are a language that your body is using to express its need for assistance.
What are some of the ways that you foster that kind of body awareness and connection and encourage your clients to do that? Because as you said, it's a really difficult skill to learn, and it takes time and perseverance to actually get to a point where it's not a real struggle every time.
Yeah, I think again, like I went down that like all or nothing, like deep self, like that real interest-led experience into yoga.
Yes.
Again, when I was living in Canada, and that was a huge body awareness and learning to listen to internal cues. And then I've recognized that as my movement needs shift and I've do different movement now, each of those have been a reflection of being able to listen to my body. You know, I do a lot more strength-based work now because my body doesn't need to be stretched out, which again happened from this body awareness. It's like my body's already like hyper flexible. It doesn't need any more assistance in that world. And so I think like having that movement relationship or relationship to movement, whether it is stretching or even walking or however you choose to move, sometimes dancing, it opens up these conversations within the body where you can learn your range of motion, where you can learn certain cues. And I think a lot of it comes down to movement, but consistency in the same movement over time.
So would you say that you kind of encourage people to find a way to move their bodies in a way that feels good for them, and that kind of opens the door to that body awareness and that ability to listen in and tune in to what the body needs?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's helpful. And I think for me, I think it's a good starting space. And, it has for me, it just has so many stacking functions, right? Having that movement practice. Again, just because it can help raise that baseline, especially when it's practiced in the morning, like raising that baseline dopamine level, which can be helpful for, that ADHD picture, which can be quite a low baseline dopamine, right? So, or, even in our attention distracted world can be helpful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to delve into herbal medicine and plant medicine and how you found that to be supportive. I've loved hearing about how your journey with herbs and getting to know them and working with them practically has unfolded. But I'd really love to hear about some of the allies that you've kind of held close to help support you in terms of self-care and even ones that you work with your neurospicy clients that you've found. I know everybody is different and every picture is different, but are there any threads that you can kind of pull out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, personally for me, I definitely have about three, actually, let's not put a number on it, but I feel like consistently I have a really strong relationship with licorice. Yeah, which, that it makes sense with that like cyclic burnout fatigue picture. Yeah, and so, sometimes it goes in my tonic, sometimes I'm making lots of tea with it. And actually at my work, we have straps of licorice, or like those like 100% licorice extracts, which, all of those little forms I'm, sneaking into my life. Sometimes sometimes it's a lot and sometimes not so much, which is always, even those little, even recognizing now, like my relationship to licorice can also indicate where I am on like my burnout level as well. I feel like I'm drawn to eating a lot more licorice when I'm becoming
you're on the down. Yes.
fatigued.
Yeah. When did you first experience licorice and how?
Oh gosh.
Was that in your travels or not until uni?
No, I think it would have been at uni. I think it would have been one of those inconspicuous times, probably when I was first working in a health food shop and I just made myself a herbal tonic, so that would have been like 3 years ago. I probably put licorice in, and over time it's just been one of those plants that I've consistently always put in my tonic. Yeah, I can't say I've ever made a tonic without licorice, to be honest.
So tell us about some of the things that licorice brings for you.
I definitely feel like it. Do you know what? I previously had a lot of hypertension or low blood pressure where I would stand up and like just go completely black in the eyes, couldn't see a thing, super dizzy, sit back down, get my breath again. Which, you know what, there was a part of me that really loved that sensation.
Yes.
But I also knew that it wasn't great.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's, just having licorice and not having that experience anymore, and knowing that that's good. And And even when I used to have to go to GPs or get my blood pressure taken, they were always like, wow, your blood pressure's low. Like, I remember this woman going, don't run a marathon. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, I think that was one of the big things for me. And then again, like that, just being able to regulate my energy.
Yes.
And just, yeah, that's been a big one.
And is that one that you use a lot with clients?
To be honest, no.
Okay.
No, not one that some clients, yes, if I think they need it, but it's not going in everyone's mixes for sure.
It's very personal for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, like now that we're having this conversation, like I think a lot comes down to like that fatigue. Like if I think back to when I was having, I actually am not having a lot of herbal tonic at the moment because I don't need it. Like I'm feeling good. But you know, when I was quite reliant on herbs in that way, I was going through uni, and so there was a lot of masking and having to live in this really demanding world that I really struggled with. And so no wonder I had fatigue, not just the uni aspect, but also that masking component that can show up as well.
Adrenals were on high alert.
Yeah, for sure.
So licorice has been a beautiful ally for you. You mentioned there was a couple of more that you hold close.
Yeah. This one's a bit of an interesting one because I don't think of it as like necessarily a typical like nervous system support, but it's Vitex.
Yes.
Obviously helps regulate my menstrual cycle, helps increase my progesterone. But because I also have this, you know, study of N equal 1 of myself, right? And when I've been taking Vitex to when I don't, and just again, like looking at that focus pathway, because Vitex also interacts with our dopamine receptors as well. So I'm always a bit curious. I'm like, is that playing out as well? I'm just not sure. And yeah. So that's probably like another big ally for me.
And is that a herb that you've been using longer term?
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's like recognizing that relationship between hormones and neurotransmitters as well is a big thing, right? So I think like inadvertently it's been really supportive overall.
I love that. I mean, I understand the interplay between, you know, the menstrual cycle and the neurotransmitters, but I haven't considered, as you said, Vitex as a herb, as a go-to for supporting the nervous system, but it makes total sense.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just an interesting thing. Like it's just not something that I ever would have thought. And I mean, I always try and delve not always, but every now and then I like go down this rabbit hole with like trying to understand how Vitex works. And you know, there's discussions around it, like its interaction with estrogen as well. And so what it's doing there, and then looking at that relationship between estrogen and dopamine, and yeah, it's so fascinating, right?
That's a beautiful one. And what others have you got in your belt, Beth?
Oh, what others? Look, I'm always what other herbs? You know, I do love all our nervine herbs, and I go through all of them at certain points. I love linden at the moment, or tilia.
Yes.
I just love that flavour so much. Yeah, and I don't necessarily think I fit a tilia presentation or lime flower presentation, but I just love that flavor and that
Mm,
calming aspect.
mm, mm.
Um, yeah, I feel like they're probably my go-tos.
Yeah. Have you found any common threads or pillars in the herb world that you find yourself coming back to a lot when working with your neurospicy clients?
Yes, pillars, I always think of regulating nervous system, right?
Mm,
Because when our nervous system isn't regulated, it's so hard for everything becomes amplified in terms of these presentations that we see, some of those challenging presentations that we see in neurodivergence. And they're definitely amplified when we're not regulated.
mm.
So that's always a general starting ground for
What
me when
are
I'm
some of
working with
those challenges,
clients.
Beth, that you see consistently with those clients?
Mm, I mean, I, yeah, burnout is a big one, and that
Mm,
general fatigue is big.
mm-hmm,
Obviously, lots of anxiety, depression shows up.
mm,
Um, what else? And then that focus and even executive function. So, knowing um, what you need to do to get out the door in the morning
yes.
and not having those things where, there's times where I actually have to sit and think of like, oh, now I put on my shirt, now I put on my jumper. Don't forget to put on your shoes and socks, whereas other days they're automatic.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then even that working memory. So, when you're studying, that's really important, or even just working in the space that we do, it's really
Mm,
important to have that working memory.
mm,
And again, for a lot of clients, it's really important. So they're some of the big ones. Time management is also a big one. Um, and yeah, I think they're the main ones that I see a
mm,
lot of.
mm.
Um, And then, oh gosh, and then I guess you can also then go down the rabbit hole of like pathological demand avoidance and aggression and all of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
aspects as well. So it can be pretty varied
of
how things
course.
show up.
Yeah. In light
Yeah.
of some of those challenges, what are some of the herbs that you find have been really supportive?
Hmm. Hmm. I feel like it depends, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I do feel like there is so much and again it's so much nervous system work and reducing neuroinflammation. I feel like they're two
Mm,
really big
mm-hmm,
pillars of
mm-hmm.
supporting neurodivergence, and then probably the third one being gut health.
Yes,
Like I feel like those three
three. Mm,
components can
mm,
answer for a lot. And
mm.
so I often reach for things like chamomile, gotu kola, wood
Mm,
betony.
mm.
Um,
Most of us would be familiar with chamomile. Do you want to tell us a little bit
yep,
about why you might reach for gotcha cola or wood betony?
yeah, sure. Gotu kola is a alternative, so really good for cleansing, purifying
Mm,
blood.
mm,
Also great cerebral anti-inflammatory, which is probably the reason why I
mm,
reach for it for a lot of clients.
mm,
Um, and also, again, because there can be that component of, because there can be a lot of comorbidities around neurodivergence and connective tissue disorders such
Yes.
as Ehlers-Danlos. And so again, it's like supporting of that connective tissue disorder as well. Yeah, I think that's a big one. Yeah,
And wood
and then
Bethany,
wood
yeah.
betony. I love um, I love that idea of. I think of it a little bit similar to the skull cap, right? Where it like moves the energy down from the brain into the body. And especially when there's like lots of maybe like auditory overstimulation, can be helpful. Yeah, they're probably the main reasons I would seek
There's
those
lots
ones
of buzz
out.
around saffron at the moment
Yeah, I
for
love saffron as
neurodivergent.
well. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your experiences with saffron.
Yes. Actually, do you know what? I have actually started putting a little bit of saffron into lots of clients' mixes. Yeah, I again, it's great because it does have that cerebral anti-inflammatory action, and we can go down all the science of how it helps BDNF and the research around mood stabilization. Oh gosh, it's like all of those things, right? And and it helps to, oh gosh, where does it go in terms of neurotransmitters? It can support serotonin. I also believe it supports dopamine as well. Some of helps increase dopamine, and also even like helps modulate GABA as well. Helps to bring GABA up. So it's like all of those huge impacts, and all of those dysregulated neurotransmitter pathways or are so common in neurodivergence, right? So it's like how can we get things wiring and firing together in the right way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I,
yeah, saffron's beautiful.
yeah. I know that chamomile is a beautiful herb for supporting the gut and the brain. Are there any other herbs that you reach for when you're looking at supporting the gut for someone with neurodivergency?
Yep, I think there's also space for lemon balm as well, obviously. Lavender as well. I love lavender.
What do you love about lavender?
I love, again, I think it covers a lot of bases. And I think a lot of people like its familiarity as well. Some people like the lavender burps when you put it in a tonic, and some people not so much.
Yes. It's like you've swallowed a lavender bush.
I know. I always have to warn people. I'm like, just be careful. I'm like, this is going to happen. Yeah, so that's always fun. Yeah, I like the familiarity. I like that it is like this anxiolytic, and it also can help like some of those, like I guess that motility of the gut as well. And then again, great for mood stabilization as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh my goodness, I just remembered one of my other all-time classic herbs that I feel like I need to mention.
Go for
And
it.
that's oats.
Oh, yes. Tell us
It's
about why
oats.
you love
Oats,
oats.
oats, oats, oats. Oh my goodness. I always just think of them as a big warm hug,
Oh,
like a
me
bowl of
too.
porridge, right?
That's how I talk about them, a big bowl
So
of
good.
porridge for the nervous system.
Totally. Yeah. And then, then we can go into, they're full of B vitamins. And they're really good for that depleted adrenal state of like or that dysregulated adrenal state where they need that nurturing and nourishment, and it's like slowing down. Even if you think about when you eat oats, right, in the middle of winter, it's like that slowing down and bringing that energetic back when you eat or when you're working with oatseed. I'm definitely a lot more in love with oatseed. I use oatseed a lot more. I mean, you know what? Actually, no, that's not true. I use oat straw in lots of tea. So
yes, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
time and place.
Have you ever processed milky oats?
Yes, that was probably like my like big initiation. Yeah, I planted some one winter and I went through that whole process, which I absolutely adored. And then, like, you know, just felt like a little kid getting to squeeze them, and then, like, eventually having like enough to make a tincture. So, yeah, that was beautiful and something I treasure. And yeah.
Next level special. I'm so excited. I interviewed a friend, Sasha, who has a farm not far from me, and she's invited me to come and harvest the milky oats when it's running. So I'm so excited about doing that because, like you, oats is a really special medicine in my heart. Yeah, really excited.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, I'm excited for you. Wow. My ability to plant things on time is sometimes questionable. Oh gosh. And so, you know, it's probably now that I'm like, oh, I should start planting the milky oat, my oats. And then I'm like, oh, it's probably a bit late.
So, do you have the capacity for more herbs than what you've got in pots where you are now?
Oh, kind of. I think I can organize my plants a little bit better. I think I might just need to do a little bit of a rearrange of what's growing. And I mean, I can always buy another pot. Actually, I probably have another pot or two. So yeah, you know, I guess I always try and have my lots of herbs that I can pick and enjoy daily. And then I have lots of, you know, a few little veggies, easy grow veggies.
Apart from oats, what's on your wish list to bring into the garden?
Oh gosh, what is on my wish list? I feel like it's all gone blank. Let me have a little think. I do love borage flowers.
Yeah.
They remind me of little aliens.
Oh, I love just picking them and eating them.
Yeah, they're so tasty, right? So tasty. I mean, I do love, and I've never successfully done it, grown California poppy, but I would love to.
That grows well here.
I
so
actually
I'm
want
lucky.
to. Yeah. Oh, nice. I actually would love to grow licorice. I think he's on my radar. Licorice and marshmallow are both on my radar.
Some root medicine.
Yeah, and again, like, yeah, marshmallow is probably another herbal ally for me, just more constitutionally. Yeah, those two. And do you know what? I actually love growing chamomile. I love like how, do you know what I also have in my garden is calendula. Like I always have calendula growing.
Yes.
Maybe a bit dormant at the moment, but I'm sure it'll pop back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love chamomile because I love that the more you harvest it, the more you get.
The flowers just keep blooming.
Yep. I actually also have I've got actually quite a few plants that I have gochukola growing. What other plants? I think they're probably the main ones. Licorice, marshmallow. Yeah.
Those two would be amazing. You've really generously shared your relationship and your use of so many herbs. But I'm wondering if there's any that we haven't touched on yet that you feel like might have been one that's kind of been the most pivotal or impactful in your life?
I feel like we've covered it.
I feel like our talk around licorice was really deep.
Yeah, licorice. Yeah, licorice and for me, like licorice and oats are probably those two really big ones. They've been strong in my life.
Two beautiful nervous system, adrenal, gorgeous, supportive herbs. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Beth. I've just really enjoyed this meandering path that we've taken together, learning about how you've had those beautiful nudges from the universe that have brought you to this place where you are now sharing your experiences and your wisdom with so many others. So thank you so much for making the time for this.
Thanks for having me, Jess. That was definitely a beautiful meandering path that we got, right? I loved it. And it was nice for me because I got to have these realizations of, like recognizing those relationships and how much they've nourished me and held me and guided me and,
absolutely,
keep guiding me.
The plants have had your back.
They have.
I'm so glad you tuned into this episode of Self-Care with Herbs, a segment of the Elder Tree podcast. The Elder Tree is a non-profit dedicated to putting the medicine in the hands of the people through grassroots herbal education and earth skills, weaving a strong community of herbalists, healers and plant folk in Australia. If you'd like to dive a little deeper, you can head over to our Patreon, the Elder Tree Trove, to access special content from our podcast guests. I hope you found something in this episode that has inspired you to begin to lean into those plant allies and to experience your practice of self-care blossoming and blooming. I look forward to sharing more ways you can weave plant medicine into your days next month.